Prospects of reinstating the draft, even as President Bush makes plans to expand the overall size of the Army and the Marine Corps. The Selective Service System confirmed today it plans to conduct a comprehensive test of its draft procedures. It maintains the exercise is routine. Still, the move and some controversial remarks by the Veterans Affairs Secretary Jim Nicholson are now putting the draft debate once again back in the spotlight. Let's bring in our congressional correspondent, Dana Bash. She's following the story for us. Dana, what is going on? Because it would seem after Charlie Rangel raised this issue a few weeks ago, he's been raising it for a while. The administration was rejecting it, but there's new controversy today.
There is controversy given the news you just reported, Wolf, but I talked this afternoon to top aides, to Democrats about to take over the House and Senate, and they all said the chances are still slim to none that the draft will be reinstated anytime soon. Even with the new bipartisan push to expand the military, pretty much everyone believes that could and should be done with an all-volunteer military, the one that has been in place since the draft ended in 1973. Now, one senior Democrat, as you mentioned, Charlie Rangel, did publicly call for reinstating the draft last month, but his party leaders from incoming Speaker Nancy Pelosi on down said that was not in the cards. Now, there was a brief question about whether the White House was maybe lifting its long-standing opposition to reinstating the draft when yesterday Veterans Affairs Secretary Jim Nicholson told reporters, quote, our society would benefit from a draft, but then he later reportedly issued a statement to clarify, saying he does not support reinstating the draft. Now, as you mentioned, the Selective Services System is confirming today it wants to test their procedures. That did create some buzz about the controversial topic of the draft, but they took pains to say the exercise they're doing is just routine. And the bottom line is the White House opposes the draft. Most Republicans and Democrats on Capitol Hill do too. And one Democratic leadership aide I talked to today said, no way, no how will it be reinstated. Wolf.
Dana, thank you for that. Dana Bash, our congressional correspondent, reporting the draft is making a comeback, at least for our debate, or at least our discussion right now in our strategy session. Joining us now, CNN political analyst and Democratic strategist Donna Brazile, and Terry Jeffrey, editor of Human Events. Guys, thanks very much for coming in. Here's what's new about all of this talk about reviving the military draft. It comes only days after the President of the United States made a major announcement saying he wants a bigger Army, a bigger Marine Corps, rejecting, in effect, repudiating 6 years of Donald Rumsfeld, who wanted a lean, mean fighting machine, but a small one. And now the President says, you know what, it's not good enough. So all of a sudden, we're getting word that the Selective Service, the draft, they're going to have this major test to see how they're doing. What do you make of this?
Well, this is like testing a fire alarm. I think it's part of their routine to test the system to see if it works. But if you want to unify Republicans and Democrats, bring up the draft, because we're all opposed to reinstating the draft. Many of us are.
Charlie Rangel's not opposed to it. He thinks it would be good for the country.
Well, you know, I think Charlie Rangel's argument, which doesn't address the size of the military, but the composition of it, is wrong, Wolf. The Heritage Foundation has done an excellent study that shows military recruits, even since the war in Iraq, are a little bit wealthier and a little bit better educated than the typical American in their peer group. And they actually tend to come more from the South than from urban areas. But I agree with Donna. Republicans and Democrats are united on this, and if there's anything this country needs is a bipartisan foreign policy in a country where the people are behind the foreign policy of the country. I don't think a draft would help us get there.
The Jim Nicholson comments did cause a little bit of a stir. What he said on Thursday, today, what he said originally, he said, I think if we bring back the draft, there should be no loopholes for anybody who happens to be drafted. I think that our society would benefit.
It's a draft bill in the Congress stating that all men and women between the age of 18 and 42 to serve in the military. H.R. 4752.
Let me be clear. I strongly support the all-volunteer military and do not support returning to a draft. So both of you agree this would be a bad idea. It would not be in the national interest to...
After the debates, I made it very plain. We will not have an all-volunteer Army. And yet this week, we will have an all-volunteer Army. Let me restate that. We will not have a draft.
I don't even know why they need to recruit in the first place. It's not like there's a war in Iraq. I mean, for the conditions for a war to occur, the other side has to have an army.
Not anymore.
There is no war in Iraq.
You slaughter.
There is no war in Iraq. For there to be a war, the other side has to have an army.
Get in the way. Get out.
On the wall.
Yeah, see, we should change that sign, Armed Forces Career Center, to Armed Forces Funeral Parlor.
How about Necrotorium?
Necrotorium? Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah! Hold it in, baby.
Nuts to the Necrotorium!
We were outside, but it was an inside job!
Inside job!
Inside job, baby!
Inside job!
Hey man, you realize 9/11 was an inside job, right? You don't think the 19 guys with box cutters can make our fucking air defense system shut down, do you? Hey man, I noticed you're out here in front of the recruitment center with a 9/11 Truth Now sign, and I'm curious exactly why you're holding the sign or what you mean by it.
Well, I think if we're going to have some kind of flimsy justification for an endless war, wasting billions or trillions of dollars, we should have some actual evidence toward the real perpetrators, and if people would just sit down and think about who stands to benefit from all this, that would come to light pretty quickly.
All right, man, thanks.
Yeah.
Oh.
Inside job!
Inside job!
It's an inside job! We're outside, but it's an inside job!